Yo guys, Spiderbot here. We're talking again Mob of the Dead. Of course, that's all we're going to be talking about here for the next, month. What else are we going to talk about? This time, we're looking into the Warden of Alcatraz. I'm going to give you a lot of background here and some theories. Obviously, we're looking at Mob of the Dead as a, quasi-fictional, non-fictional type of application in the COD Zombies universe. I mean, they went to Alcatraz, the team went to Alcatraz to try and create a map that had the look and feel of Alcatraz, but obviously we're talking about a storyline that's way beyond what had actually occurred at Alcatraz. But anyways, let's go back to the Warden. And firstly, we should go back to Die Rise. I know people have mentioned it. It's kind of obvious right at the end of the game, after the game's over and you're dead or whatever, then you hear this sound. So, it sounds like some big-ass dude closing a door and locking it or whatever. Yeah, it's, Alcatraz, you're shutting the jail cell door, all right? Okay, so just hold on to that thought for a minute. So going back to the Warden from the first Warden of Alcatraz from 1934 till 1948 was James A. Johnston. It was Johnston who was instrumental in the development of the Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary as a prison and was involved in the design of it as a federal prison in 1934. He served as the first warden of Alcatraz from 34 till 48. He was considered to be a highly strict disciplinarian and a devout reformist who imposed a number of rules upon the prison, including a strict code of silence, which led to him being nicknamed the Golden Rule Warden from his San Quentin days. He was relatively popular among inmates and guards, known as Old Saltwater to the inmates. He actually, I think he ate with the prisoners, unguarded. And one time he got beaten by a guy named Burton Phillips, beat him up in the dining hall. But then afterwards he continued to attend meals unguarded. And he was there for 10 of the 14 escape attempts that occurred at Alcatraz during the time Alcatraz was actually a prison. Now, there are some accounts of torture and punishment at Alcatraz, and the reason why I'm covering this will become apparent to you in a few minutes. Elementary rape, also called force feeding. This involved forcing a rubber tube down the throat of a convict on hunger fast and forcing him to ingest a mixture of milk, sugar, and eggs. To do this, staff would have to strap the inmate down very securely, open the mouth with a lever, or lever, however you want to pronounce it, and put the tube in, a painful process for the inmate. The most noticeable instance of this happened in 1936, supposedly after several prisoners went on a hunger fast. 10 prisoners in all were made to take the tube on this occasion. Beatings. Warden Johnston insisted that this didn't happen in his prison. Convict testimony, on the other hand, told of a few instances when prisoners were beaten. Among them were Henry Young and Harmon Whaley. Guard Frank Heaney says in his personal memoir of life as an Alcatraz guard that some senior officers carried blackjacks. A blackjack is a small rubber-covered lead club. Their possession and use is illegal. Nevertheless, senior officers use these at times to knock prisoners unconscious. And we're going to see this. We're going to see possible evidence of this blackjack. Environmental torture. Alcatraz was chosen for its isolation amid the cold waters of the San Francisco Bay. Cold winds blew off the Pacific Ocean and into the cell house. The dungeon rooms employed old ventilators, which let the cold air in right into the chamber. Some guards could be cruel. Alvin Karpus tells the story of one who used to turn on the air conditioning at night in isolation. Imagine that. Prisoners tried to protect themselves by covering the vents with toilet paper. The guard would clean the paper out with a special hook. What else we got? The old army cisterns near the dungeons probably leaked, giving rise to a prisoner belief that these rooms were below the waterline, which they weren't. Sometimes guards turned the hose on a prisoner in the dungeons or the hole, leaving them to lay in it until the end of their stay or until it evaporated. That's crazy. There were no formal executions at Alcatraz, but however, there was a belief that there were informal, and prisoners believed that guards shot to kill during escape attempts. Eyewitness accounts of Joe Bauer's death seem to substantiate this unwritten policies. So one thing that got me thinking and theorizing about, well, how did this zombie outbreak occur? What happened? And somebody had linked me to a movie that came out in the 1950s, I believe. Yeah, 1950, exactly. Experiment Alcatraz. And I'm going to read you a little description here. It's actually another in a very long line of ultra cheap curios from this director. But basically, there's this doctor and his crack team of army physicians are certain that by blasting radioactive isotopes into human guinea pigs, medical science will find a cure for a rare blood disease. A group of 5 Alcatraz lifers are given the opportunity to gain their freedom if they're willing to subject themselves to this hazardous and radical medical experiment. So there are a bunch of cons that said, okay, yeah, we'll agree, obviously, because, you know, there's no other way off of Alcatraz. May as well try this, right? So that got me thinking, okay, what's the premise here? How did this zombie outbreak occur? And my thought was, okay, we have this warden who is performing experiments on the inmates, and the staff are involved, etc., right? Okay, so how is that working? How, you know, what are these experiments, and how is the warden related to other COD zombies, bad guys like, you know, Richtofen, Maxis, whoever, right? Well, if you go back to Tunguska, and Tunguska was first originally referenced in Shin Onuma, and the Tunguska event occurred in 1908, so it is entirely possible that the connection may be here if we talk about Group 935, I mean, in relation to Illuminati, etc. I mean, this warden could be part of that, could be part of that early grouping of, you know, it goes back to like the Masons, right? I mean, that goes way back, and even look at Assassin's Creed, and that whole game is based on these Masons and Illuminati, etc. So yeah, it is quite entirely possible that the warden was performing experiments on the inmates using element 115 that you know, caused this outbreak to occur, and obviously, you know, something's gone wrong with the warden here. Now we're going to get to the warden being this boss zombie that's storming the prison. Okay, so this is the first glimpse we get of this warden boss zombie boss. You get it? Because, you know, the inmates called the warden and the guards boss. It looks like he's armored. I mean, he's got it looks like a warden's badge, which is different from the badge that we saw in the original trailer. That's just a prison guard. He does have this device that's looks attached across his abdomen, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. He's got this helmet. I don't know if he was set up in the electric chair or what. I know we saw him as well on the image from the Xbox promotion for the COD Championships. Now, if we look closely at these images, it looks like this device that's attached to his abdomen is activatable, and it's not just a flashlight. It looks like it's just a glorified flashlight, but it looks to me like it's some kind of freeze device. And you notice in the images with the Perk Machine, when the light is shone on the Perk Machine seems to freeze. And one of the developers during the commentary, during the behind-the-scenes video, said that the Warden Boss would lock down the Perk Machine, and it would close down the box, and you'd have to pay to be able to access the box again. And that's what I was talking about with the that Hellhound, with the sacrifice in Hellhound, because they did mention the box, but it is still feasible that they may be talking about the box as something else, not necessarily the mystery box as we know it. Now, this one image we're showing here of the warden, it does look like he has something in his right hand. And doesn't it look like what we discussed earlier, a blackjack? The blackjack being, again, the small rubber-covered lead club. I mean, it looks like kind of a club. So I'm thinking that is a blackjack, and that's what he uses to attack you. Now, there was no evidence of him actually attacking the characters. I mean, he was running at them. It looked like Ray Liotta at one point was trying to avoid getting in the way of his light because his light was on, and I'm assuming that would maybe possibly freeze the characters. We don't know, and then he could attack them. Also for killing the warden, and it's likely that he's going to resurrect. He's just going to keep coming back, similar to how we've seen George. But I think it's a lot easier, or it is definitely a lot easier to kill the warden than it is to kill George, because we see here on Instakill that it was pretty much almost a one-shot kill. Now that just may be coincidence that it worked out that way, but it does look like that he's a little bit easier to handle. I'm sure if you didn't have insta-kill, he'd be a bit tougher to kill. So for me, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what this the beginning cutscene. They pretty much have to have a cutscene in order to explain things here. So I think that's going to happen, and it's going to be a more involved cutscene than what we saw with Die Rise, in my opinion, to give us a little bit of background on what the heck is going on here. Just my theory about how things broke out, how the zombie outbreak has occurred. Is this, sounds like this is going to be the first zombie outbreak. We still don't have a definitive reason why the zombies' eyes are red. I think we can theorize, but I guess we'll see when the map comes out. Oh my god, we're only, what, 8 days away? Woo! 8 days! Yes! I can't wait! How about you guys? What do you guys think about the Warden Boss zombie? I think he's be pretty cool. Hopefully, he's not as much of a pain in the ass as George Romero on Call of the Dead, but I don't think he's going to be. He's going to be probably kind of a pain in the ass, like a cross between the Napalm Zombie and the Shrieker in Shangri-La would be my guess, approximately. And the fact that he impacts your the perk machines and the box. It's not clear also because the developer mentioned he closes down the box and you have to pay to access again, that perhaps the same thing occurs with the perk machine. I mean, he doesn't impact the power. If you saw in those images, before and after, the power meter, the voltage meter was still at max on the perk machine, but yeah, that freezing of it, perhaps now that he's frozen or whatever, it's locked down, you have to pay points to unfreeze it perhaps, or it's time-based, and then you have access to purchase whatever perk you want to purchase. Those are just my thoughts and theories on the Warden and the Outbreak. What do you guys think? I'd like to hear your opinion. We'll have more for you very, very soon. I'm Spider, and I'm out.